on my own computer as well. I have it for YouTube. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. All right, very happy to be here. I'm just going to wait a little bit for Sher and Sherman to join us. A few others asked to join the course, but they didn't attend. They didn't connect to the module. They didn't look at it, so I don't imagine they've had time to do it yet. So hopefully we'll see them next week. But I'm happy for anyone to come on Zoom. However, I am keen to only have those come on Zoom if you've actually done repeat backs and takeaways and the tasks and exercises. This is important, and this makes a difference. Makes a very big difference. All right, so we just wait. Come on, Sher. Where are you? There we are. There we are. There we are. Featured. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Hello, Bina. You here, right? You see us in group, Bina? Bina?
Yes. Hello. Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm here. And yes, I was looking for CJ with us. And he says hi.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Oh, I'm really pleased that that CJ is here. Yeah, that's really excellent. It's most excellent, most excellent. Good deal, CJ. Good deal. CJ, did you go through the module online as well? Did you do repeat backs and takeaways?
So we'll see that when he will respond to that.
Yeah, yeah. It takes 30 seconds or so, a bit of delay. That'd be great. That'd be great. Because if you did, you can share some of your repeat backs and takeaways in chat. So wonderful. Hello, CJ. Hello, hello, hello. There we go. I'm all pinned, Bina. I just need to share it to my feed.
Okay, since we have a bit time, I have a question for you because I read it somewhere and they were saying that, oh, who wants to do the course on to be anxious and worried about? Because the course was,
Yes.
yes, it was freedom from anxiety and worry.
Yes.
But so they were saying that. So my question, sorry, of course, yes, that was a funny thing, and they were also just making some joke about it. But
Yes.
my question about this, that how actually it is that being aware is a different thing and being anxious and worried is a different thing, so we are dealing with them separately because it's a kind of like understanding that once you are aware you will not be in any kind of situation, but it seems like that it is not the case. People who are aware of, like, okay, so many things and so many perspectives, still they get anxious and worried about.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
So
just
you're
elaborate
saying,
a bit more.
yeah. Sorry. So are you asking how come people who are aware of this get anxious and worry anyway?
Yes.
Okay. Because the body has its own agenda. So our body can worry of its own accord, regardless of us. Yeah, because it feels somehow that its safety is in doubt. Now that of course is connected to our beliefs, but we have to understand that even though we may override a belief, the body may still be connecting to that, right? So I can choose to shift away from the belief, but if the belief is still there, some part of me says, the body says, well, yeah, you may be ignoring it, but I can't, and the body's a little bit more hyper or concerned with this. So, sure. I'm hoping you're going to come on Zoom because I want to hear your takeaways and repeat back. So yeah, please come on Zoom, sure.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So
And Sherman
is it?
too. I don't know where Sherman
Yes.
is, but he said, okay, come
Okay.
on, Sherman. We want to get going.
Okay. So what I understand that we assume that understanding, awareness, learning, and growing is of course it's profound ideas, but they are not directly connected to our situation. So when things come up and we feel overwhelmed by that, or sometimes things are not really comfortable for us, we feel that all those profound ideas are not directly addressing or not able to address my particular personal situation. So we still do
Yes,
get anxious or worried about.
exactly, 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 exactly. Brilliant, brilliant. Do me a favor and just repeat what you asked. May I ask Shay? Sure, the same question. How it works for her?
Good morning. How it
Good
works for me?
morning, Sher. Good morning. Good morning. We are most wonderful and happy you here. Where's Sherman? Oh, okay. Okay. He said he's logging. All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was doing, was setting everything up. So what was the question, please?
Well, more
Okay,
of an
so I was
observation,
just,
I
yeah,
guess.
so we had time. So I was just asking Sil that, okay, why we still see that and observe that people who are aware and they are into learning and growing and continuously working on themselves, but it's still they do get anxious and worried in some personal, mundane, trivial situation. So why is that so?
Part of it to me is what we believe. I proved that to myself this morning because of an incident yesterday. It had to do with, I felt doubt creeping into me all day long, doubt, and I was thinking, why am I doing all of this if I'm not making any gains? Can you believe that? Okay.
Oh,
And talking about
Yes.
my physical aspect,
Mhm.
just because the doctor told me my cholesterol was still too high and she's given me 6 more weeks. It created, I felt an old belief creep in. That to me is where my anxiety is coming from, is false beliefs. There was a part of me that still is not believing that, I'm doing this, that I'm on the right path, even though I've got
exactly.
proof. So I feel like once we feel like we can truly believe the truth about ourselves,
Yes.
and I feel like that starts to fall away, but still might have a different answer. And that's what I think that we're here for. So
No, that's it's yes, it is. Hello, Sherman. So he's
Brilliant.
here
Brilliant.
also.
Brilliant. 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 Brilliant.
So
Ah,
just to
magic.
add
Hello,
into
Sherman.
this,
Yes. Very cool. Very cool. Hello. Good morning, Sherman. How are you? How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
good
All right.
morning.
Good.
Morning.
good morning.
Yes, good morning, good morning. I'm pleased to hear, Sherman. I'm very pleased to hear, and I'm very pleased also to see that you've been accessing the module and been going through it. Obviously, so this is wonderful. This is great.
Yes.
So other people asked to participate, and I sent them the same links I sent you. I don't think they realize, but just part of the software it shows me says it lets me know when people access it. You see, so
Oh, wow.
when it says zero access, all right, I guess somebody's not taking it very seriously. But hopefully, it's just because they don't have time or something. So we'll trust that they will come and participate in the future. All right, so let's get going right away. Yeah, I'm going to screen share, and the way we do this is. We'll go through the slides, and then I'm going to just ask you guys to share your repeat backs and takeaways. So this is just the contents that we're going to go through. I don't know if we'll get through all of it today, but we'll go as far as we go. There's no pace. There's no scheduled pace to doing this. We'll do it however long it takes. Also, yes, of course, today we're all going to be on the same page, but you may only have gotten past a few slides, or you may have done the whole module. I have no idea, and everybody's different, right? We work at different paces and different schedules. And then also, like Sher, she's been doing this for a while now, and Sher had a particular question about where she's at in module 4, and we'll address that too. It doesn't matter. We don't have to be on the same page. Bina, right?
Yes, I was just saying that please make this slide screen bigger
Okay,
so
okay,
we can see that.
okay, okay, okay. All right, so there we go. Yes, all right. I was keeping an eye on the comments there, but all right, Norma, you'll have to wait. Yeah. Please get better, Norma. Please get better. Please get better. All right. We miss you. We miss you. Okay. So as we go through, the way we'll do this is, we'll go through, read the slide, and then, you guys just share your repeat backs and takeaways. Now we'll alternate. For the first couple of slides, maybe, or just on the first one, I'll get you guys to share. On the, each one do a takeaway or a repeat back on the same slide, because I feel for anybody listening to this, it is most valuable to hear how different individuals share and connect to the exact same material. And this is what makes what we do so powerful. It's custom to you. You are figuring it out for yourself. You are thinking it through for yourself. You are making it your own. This is potent. And to be aware, there's no right or wrong. They're all right because they according to you. And also in hearing that, you may sit there and you listen to the first person say, yes, I hear you. And now you think they've kind of said, wow, it's like cool, and you think they've said all there is to say on it. And then the next person comes and says, oh, I didn't think of that. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. And so on. So we get new, fresh perspectives every time. And it's very powerful. All right. So this is the quote here. Oh, somebody joining. Jessica Marchman. This is your sister, right? Sure?
My daughter.
Your daughter. All right. Brilliant.
Yeah, this is my daughter.
Brilliant. All right. So we'll just wait for her to connect. So this, I love this quote here. Worry bees only buzz in the future. I do believe that comes from Bina, but we weren't entirely sure. Normally I do attribute them, but we get into quotes in Way of Impeccability, so it's not a critical thing for us. All right. Hello, Jessica. I'm glad you're here. We're about to start. So as we go along, Jessica, I don't think you've been doing the module, so we're going to ask others to share their repeat backs and takeaways. But please feel free to ask a question as it comes up, right? So just listen along and then ask if something comes up. All right?
Okay, sounds good. I was planning on listening, so.
Wonderful. I'm pleased to
Hello,
hear because
Jessica.
this is really great.
Hello.
This is really great, Jessica, that you are here as someone who hasn't been doing repeat backs and takeaways. And you're more than welcome to, if you want to do this. Please just let Sher know, and we'll hook you up. I'll send you all the stuff you need to know. It's not a problem. I mean, I'll be very happy if you do. But this is going to be useful for all of us now, because you're coming at it from a perspective of somebody who's sort of new to this, and you're not participating, well, not yet anyway, or at least hopefully, but your questions are therefore going to be that of somebody kind of looking at it as it's fresh and new, from the outside, as it were. And this is very valuable. So please, if you don't have if something doesn't connect or click or doesn't make sense, just ask. This is most wonderful. So this point here, worry bees only buzz in the future. That's a big point. To realize that what we worry about is in the future. And when we worry, we are assuming quite arrogantly that we know what the future is going to be. Right?
Yes.
It's a small point, but it's a big point.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's start. I'm going to read through this, and then I'm going to ask for some takeaways. Or first the repeat backs and then the takeaways. And this one, maybe the repeat back not so critical, but the takeaway certainly is. Okay, so this top here is like a subheading, right? This top is the entire module, right? And the module or the session now in this is acknowledgement of what's involved. That's our bigger theme, right? Is to acknowledge what's all is involved. And first thing we have to acknowledge is there's a problem. And that problem is obviously anxiety and worry. So the question is, why are you taking this course? What's your intent? What do you wish to accomplish and or change? Is acknowledgement that there's a problem enough? Is that all that's involved? Or do we have to acknowledge that we need more, need a solution and need resolution? What else does that acknowledgement imply? Does it now imply we need to take actual action? So Bina, please, if you would start us off, I would appreciate it.
Okay, so my intent, because I'm luckily, or I've been working on myself, so I actually don't regularly, or you can say that being worried or anxious, this is not just part of my regular life. But of course, this course was really interesting for me. And so that's why I'm doing this. So my basic intent to do this course is to be prepared for any possible interaction with worried and anxious people, and to know what's really involved in this state of mind where people do get worried and anxious.
Yes.
And
All right. So
the
this
second intent.
Yes,
Sorry?
let me interrupt you because I want to just add to what you're saying, what you may not be able to say it for you. Bina's
Yes.
on Zoom regularly. We go into detail, and Zoom Bina participates when others come on and so on. And anxiety and worry not something that Bina deals with, I mean, she's in a different space. Now, not that it's good or bad, it just isn't so. But that doesn't mean that the program doesn't have value, because it leads to understanding, and understanding is always valuable. And sure, also, yes, okay, sure, we all sometimes deal with anxiety and worry. Not that it's necessarily something that we feel is a pressing issue. That is just a matter of degree. But either way, so sure is coming at it from both sides, both as a coach, not that it's a side, but a perspective, right? A different perspective. Being is coming from understanding and awareness, and sure also, but also as a coach, and also as somebody who deals with it herself. So there's multiple ways to get value out of this. And always, in all the programs and courses that I have, awareness, 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 and understanding, understanding, understanding. The more we understand, the more we are aware, the less things become a problem and an issue, right? It all works together. So that's why I wanted to jump in, Bina. What you're doing is really fantastic. So also when you listen to Bina, you're going to hear her coming at things from a different angle, which is why I'm asking her to start. Yeah, please go ahead.
So exactly as you said, my other intent is to enhance my ability to see the world from different perspective, because it is sometimes mostly we live in our own bubble, and we assume that okay, yes, if this thing is duh for me, it is going to be duh for everyone, which is not the case. Everybody is dealing with some very specific situation, and they have their personal problems and issues. So it's not like that if I understand something, I understand everything. No, it is not. So just that's why I'm doing this course, and that's why I'm excited about this. So my repeat back takeaway, and just in a compact way for this slide, is acknowledgement is the first step towards a resolution, but not the only or final one. We need many more steps, actions to get a real, true resolution, or multiple resolutions or solutions. Though acknowledgement is so crucial, but if we just stop at acknowledgement only, in some situation it can be harmful and might end up in depression, frustration, etc. Yes, after acknowledging the existing problem, we have to take actions, physical, deliberate actions.
Wow. See
She's
what I mean?
She's right. I don't like using that word, but she's right. It landed.
Yeah. Makes us think. All right, sure. Since you chirping up there, we'll hear some more chirping from you, please. Share where you at. Share.
I thought, and I believed that, no, I knew all there was for myself to understand about anxiety and worry, that I had that problem nipped in the bud. And no, I was, I needed more awareness. And as I went through the introduction on this, I took three, that I wanted more understanding and needed more understanding, which of course connected to awareness, larger awareness, deeper awareness, which all of that took me back to one thing, which was my takeaway. The foundation of my takeaway, I keep going back over it, and I see two things: confidence and belief in myself. Just like I alluded to the situation from yesterday with the high cholesterol. It's like, I'm doing all that I can possibly do. What more can I possibly do? And I was feeling really powerful, but then I was feeling disempowered by my beliefs, about myself, not about what I thought I knew. So this is what I wrote. And this was from before, but it has different meaning for me today.
Wonderful.
So my takeaway is, thinking of what all is involved in learning, I recognized I was feeling overwhelmed, anxious, nervous, and concerned about what I thought I knew of anxiety and worry. Well, what? I know this information. How much could there be until, as I listened to the course overview, I discovered myself trailing off to the aisle where all the ways, nuances, peculiarities, and aspects of anxiety and worry are displayed for my ego and inner critic to browse and select for their benefit. They were shopping. They went shopping yesterday too, by the way. Can I do this? Do I have the hours to dedicate to myself? And if not, why not? Was the predominant thought playing on repeat in my mind as I watched my ego and inner critic saunter away with a helping of my confidence. They do that frequently. Capital L learning is the willingness to relearn what you thought you knew and knowing there's more to learn beyond what you imagine is available. Quote by Syl Sebastian. Whew, I'm good. Okay, this is all a part of it. A point to make a note of. Excuse me, ego. I'll take that from here. Thank you. I reached out and took back my confidence. And I did that this morning. I took it back this morning when I just said, no, I'm sorry, excuse me. It's not your day to shop, it's mine. So, okay, that's where I am today.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. What really jumped out for me there, Sher, was when you said, I thought I had this and I knew this, but then I realized not so much, right? And so we can always relearn and learn more. Always.
Every day.
Always. On the same things, even. There's always more. As our awareness grows, our ability to learn what we didn't even realize we could learn also grows. And it's a most fantastic, most valuable, most awesome, and most exciting business, right? To always be learning new things, more things. Very fantastic. Very fantastic.
Every day there isn't something that I learned. I can go back and read what I wrote yesterday, read what I read yesterday, and I'm going to take away something completely different today because my awareness has expanded. I've allowed myself to go deeper. So
I have a question for you and for Bina also. Would you say that confidence and humility have merged together for you?
At this point,
absolutely.
Bina?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. In other words, your humility says, you know, I've got more to learn. I thought I knew this. I'd learned it before, but now I'm going into again and I'm learning. I'm learning it again. I'm learning new stuff. That's the humility. But your confidence says, you know, I do have this. I do know this. I do have some of this, but yet there's also more to learn. That's why they've merged. It's confidence and humility together. And if we really, really think about this, they can only coexist. Right? When you have confidence on its own, you easily get into overconfidence, and you think you know when you forget that you can learn more. And if you're too humble, you don't trust yourself to learn. You don't trust yourself to do. You don't trust yourself to apply. So they have to coexist. And this is absolutely critical because too much humility can lead to anxiety and worry.
Yes, they can.
Jessica, Sherman, let me ask you on that. Too much humility, and which leads to self-doubt, in other words, leads to anxiety and worry. Does that resonate with you guys?
Very much so. I catch myself doing that a lot.
Right. So now we say, oh, so confidence is a big issue, but we tend to think in either or. That's how we've been educated. I call it the mentality of opposites. And so it's either the one thing or the other. In other words, if something's not black, what color is it? You ask most people this question, they automatically say, oh, well, if it's not black, then, well, it must be white. And if it's not white, then it must be black. But that's absolute complete nonsense. Look behind me. Can be any of these colors, correct? So we forget this. So in other words, it's we tend to think this way and we don't even realize. In other words, if I'm not going to be humble, if my humility is causing me a problem, well, then I must be confident. And you let go of humility because, well, you go to the opposite. Yeah. And now you end up with the problems of confidence, which also is you have to have both. So this is very important to realize that we have to have both. And what can you base your confidence on? We'll get into this as we go along, but your confidence can simply be based on your goodness. That's it. It's very simple. Your goodness means that you're going to make an effort. You're going to try. You're going to learn. You're going to be humble as appropriate. You're going to be confident as appropriate. This is what your goodness is. So you can trust your goodness, no?
I'd like to ask whether or not Sherman or Jessica believe in their goodness, or if they understand what it is. Because for me, I'm asking that because that was a deep part of what was pushing my anxiety.
Yeah. Before you answer, let me add something. When I say, trust in your goodness or base your confidence on your goodness, to be really specific on this, it's actually on your intent to goodness. Now you say, I try to be good, but I screw up all the time and I get it wrong. And, I get annoyed or whatever. I do stuff that's not so good. Right. But let me ask both of you this, Sherman and Jessica, because I already know the answer for Bina and for Sure. I actually already know the answer for Sherman and Jessica also, but I don't want to sound presumptuous. You'll see what I mean in a moment. I'm not being arrogant. You'll see. What I say is, I already know that you're going to answer in the affirmative, because the question really is not, are you good, but do you have a deep, deep intent to goodness? Sherman?
I would say yes.
Hell yes. You want to tell me you have an intent to badness or intent to anything else? Jessica?
No.
That is okay. So this is a question that I still struggle with, still till this day. I believe I do things with good intent, but do I believe I'm a good person just based on that? No.
Exactly. So that's why I modified the question. You have a deep intent to goodness. How you apply that, that's the struggle. Yes. So what makes us good people is that we have the intent to goodness. So it all depends how we define good, right? And it's a little bit, is my behavior always good? Are my actions always good? Are my thoughts always good? No, because I get corrupted by all my beliefs and misassociations and all the things we're going to go through as we go through. So yes, so my behavior isn't always good. And my ideas and thoughts and beliefs, not always. However, my intent to goodness is always there. But here's the big, big point. So please make a note of what I'm about to say now, right? One particular conception, right? And that is inappropriate application of goodness. Right? Put it in your dictionary of power. Inappropriate application of goodness. It's probably going to come up somewhere in the program, but that's fine. We'll deal with it right now because it's coming up right now. This is how we end up doing things that aren't so good because we are trying to be good, but in inappropriate ways. Yes? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Yeah. So this is how we balance it. And this happens all the time. Inappropriate application of goodness is all over the show. For instance, you try and help somebody, yes, and you help them and you do the thing for them, right? I remember this, for instance. I mean, it's a very simple example, but it happened. I was doing a crossword puzzle, and I'm sitting there, and I'm a bit stuck, obviously, and my brother walks by. He's 4 years older than me, and he looks over my shoulder at the crossword, and of course, Mr. Smarty Pants, he says, "Oh, well, there you go." And I said to him, "Hey, F off." He was shocked. And he said, "What? I'm just helping you." I said, "Yes, but you just ruined my chance to figure it out for myself. That's my joy. That's why I'm doing this. Giving me the answer doesn't help me. It does the very opposite of help." Yeah. And this really struck him. I mean, he's like, "Wow, okay." So, it really floored him. He in his mind thought he was helping me. He never realized that he was doing the very opposite of help, right? Inappropriate application of goodness. Now, all right, maybe I shouldn't have told him to F off, that was a bit harsh, but nonetheless, so, I didn't think then in terms of, he was just trying to be good and help, inappropriate as it was. But it stuck with me, and it always stuck with me throughout the years that, we don't really realize the consequence of our actions. We want to think about this. So there's many ways in which we are trying to be good, but they're inappropriate. Many, many ways. So, for instance, inappropriate application of goodness, worry and anxiety. They are absolutely so, because we've been taught we should worry. This is what a good, caring person does.
Mm-hmm.
Total inappropriate application of goodness. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not worrying, then, well, you don't care, which of course is complete nonsense. It's false logic. but that's what we've been taught. Yes. And you know, those adults, when we were children who were worrying and anxious, they needed to justify their behavior in some way. So they push this attitude, the vibe, the implication that, well, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you should do. And we learn this. It's a learned behavior. It's not innate. You didn't worry when you were a toddler. You were taught to worry, right? Were you not a caring, good person as a toddler? No, of course you were. But so it's a learned behavior. So learning, I mean, inappropriate application of goodness is precisely anxiety and worry. Yeah, we think we should, and should, when we start to look at should and supposed to, and must, and all this, these are very, very powerful terms that manipulate our goodness. Very big deal. All right. So let's go back to slide 1 there.
Okay, so
And
before we start,
yeah,
Umar Al-Qasi has joined us on Facebook Live, and so he's saying hello. So he is also listening.
brilliant. I just had some noise here in my background. Hopefully you didn't hear it. It was very loud. Anyway, brilliant. Hello, glad you joined us. That's most excellent. I'm just putting the slide up for those to read, and we're doing repeat backs and takeaways on this. All right. So Sherman, please, let's hear from you.
Why am I taking this course?
Well, yes. Why are you taking this course? What's your intent? What do you wish to accomplish and/or change, etc.? Yeah. Everything on slide 1. You know, I'm assuming
yes.
you have it written down. Yes.
I do. I have it right.
Please share with us.
Thank you
Please share
for
with us.
so I feel like I should just be honest and just like be transparent, because like that's the best way for me to learn, and that's the best way for you all to understand me at the same time. My intent, you know, I deal with anxiety a lot, but the area of anxiety that I deal with the most is in like relationships with friends and like romantic partners. Even though I have like a lot of great like attributes, like, you know, I'm young and I have a lot of things going for me. I have like a tendency to get like nervous,
Yeah.
even after like a date goes extremely well. I always, you know, tend to worry like, oh, well, what if it all comes like crashing down tomorrow or something, like, you know, some variation. And I make a lot of assumptions about the future, and you know that those can be problematic. So I've been working on like confidence and like just not making assumptions about the future.
There you
Beautiful.
go.
Beautiful.
Oh, wonderful. Sherman, I wish to really, really thank you for the honesty. Now, when in that pre-program course, right, in the 9 tasks of doing, number 1 is honesty and self-honesty. If we cannot be honest and self-honest now, yes, honesty, you know, to share this out this is wonderful because it's of big usefulness and value to all of us. We've all been there where you at, and some of us still are. It's a big point. You know, relationships are a big deal. They are very important. So yes, but again, as we're going to see as we go through this, you know, that and the more you come to understand that your worry is about a maybe, then it's going to change. So this is really huge, right? Why you're doing this. So again, you're acknowledging that there is a problem, right?
Yes.
And that's important. Because if you don't, you can't deal with it.
Yeah. I saw this thing like I saw like this coach online. He said like, you know, it kind of goes in line of what you were talking about. Like we have habits of certain expectations.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I realized like before, like my expectation was like, oh, well, even if everything had gone well, you know, we were very friendly, I would always assume the worst, like, oh, well, this person hates me, or this person doesn't like
Wow.
this thing or that thing.
Yes. Yes.
But the way that I was trying to combat that was like having like certainty in myself, like, oh, I'm a great guy, like I have a lot of great attributes. You know, like I was trying, you know, but it's a work in progress.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get into affirmations and why they don't work at some point in the program, right? So make a note there in your notes that will come back to this. Most misunderstand affirmations and they use them and they don't work. Actually, sometimes are counterproductive and they don't know why. I want to get a little bit deeper into module 1, but we'll come back to this. It's massively important, and it is absolutely because of honesty and self-honesty, right? This is the key as to why they don't work for most people. But there is a way to use affirmations, and I'll get into this. It's kind of its own little separate program, but fine. So just remind me a little bit later on at some point to come back to this, right? Put a big, like, I don't know, squiggly marks or something around affirmations. We'll get back to it. It's a big point. It's a very big point. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, yes. A lot of people recommend things because even the coaches, because they've heard that affirmations is a big deal and it's supposed to work. So they push it, but they don't really know what they're doing. They just say it because they believe that it's like the big thing and affirmations work, and they're jumping on the bandwagon, but they don't know what they're saying. And so it's actually counterproductive for most people. All right. So we get on to slide 2. There's a problem. Does it not imply we need something to replace the problem with, right? If we follow on from where we were here. Yes? Or do we have to acknowledge we need more? We need a solution and we need resolution. What else does this acknowledgement imply? Does it now imply we need to take actual action? Well, yes, I should hope so, right? And does it not imply we need something to replace the problem with? Yes, we do. Because if you have debt, right? Debt, and we're using debt as an example of your problem. What happens if you eliminate your debt or eliminate that as a problem? I come and I say, here we go, Sherman, here we go, Sherbina, here we go, yeah, your debt is paid off. Boom. Right, problem solved. What do you
You're
end
still
up with?
gonna find more things to worry about though.
Right? Or you don't have any money, you don't have any income, you're just gonna have zero money, right? So if you just eliminate your debt, doesn't mean that you have income, right, Jessica?
Correct. I
Yeah.
mean, if you pay off all your debt, then yes, you won't have any
Exactly.
income, but if you
Exactly.
play it right,
Exactly.
then yeah.
Exactly. And if you eliminate, like you said, if you eliminate one worry, what you just do is you end up worrying about something else. You need to replace worrying with something else. Yes, 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 yes. All right. How about acknowledgement of accountability and then the subsequent acknowledgement that we have a responsibility, emphasized, capital R, responsibility to ourselves and others perhaps also, to deal with the issue and to replace it with something beneficial. Yes, so this is a big deal. That's a very big deal, this replacement and responsibility. All right, so Bina, if you would share again for us, please.
Yes. Okay. So for the second slide, acknowledgement of the problem. My takeaway and repeat back for that is acknowledging the existing problem is by implication the acknowledgement of the need for replacement. By just acknowledging that the problem exists, by implication we acknowledge that yes, of course, the problem has to be resolved. So replacement is a significant mechanism in itself to make the obvious really obvious, and works in a twofold way. One, it signifies that there is a problem which we need to change, and the other way magnifies that availability and the need of replacement with already available solutions and solutions. So when we say that it has to be replaced, it means that we are acknowledging that the solution or a resolution already exists. That's how we can actually just replace it. Otherwise it's like, okay, you have to create something out of it. So it will be a change but not a replacement. So that's the one thing which was really significant for me. And then once we acknowledge the problem, by implication we also acknowledge that accountability is also in play. Who else can be responsible for our lives and other than us? And when we acknowledge that we are responsible, then we go further and look for details of responsibility towards ourselves and to others. And most importantly, accept that it is our own responsibility to find or create a resolution or solutions to replace our problems with.
Yeah. Yeah. Who else can be responsible for us? Who else? That's a huge question with lots of implications. Yes. Sherman, let's hear from you, please. Sherman? Maybe Sherman had to step away. All right, sure. Let's hear from you, please.
Oh, from me?
Yeah, I was going to hear
You
from
know,
Sherman, but Sherman not responding, so maybe he dropped off or had to step away or something. So
okay, yeah,
all good.
could have been a work call.
Yeah,
Okay, well, on this one, until I figured out exactly how you wanted me to do this, remember I did the entire
yes,
module as a takeaway. However,
Yeah.
something came up for me in this, which was the word responsibility.
yeah,
Here again, I believed that I had a lot of this under my belt, that, hey, I'm a responsible and good and upstanding person. While that's all true, there was deeper exploration that needed to occur. And if you recall, I spent well over a week writing and thinking and
yes,
pulling
yes,
apart what my
yes.
responsibilities are and to whom. To myself.
Yeah, that was when I asked you specifically on responsibility
Yes.
to go in depth and do a very deep elucidation on what
I did.
responsibility is, and you did.
I
Yes.
absolutely did. And to refer anybody who's listening, you can find that in my the guide in the group.
In the guides tab, yes. In guide
Yeah.
2, in the guides tab, you can go in there and
Yes.
search it, and you'll find it. Yeah.
But the idea, honestly, of replacement, I'm just now connecting to this. Replacement sometimes can feel foreign to me,
Yeah.
especially when we think
Yeah.
we know something, we believe that we know something.
Yes.
But so we can pull away a particular problem, like we were
Yeah.
talking about earlier about that. Well, then what do we replace it with?
Yeah.
What do I put in place of that? When I'm not worrying anymore, what do I have left to do?
Exactly. And you touch on a huge issue, which Jessica also touched on, or by implication. When we get rid of a worry, basically just another one falls into place. Why do we do this? Because of familiarity, right?
Yes.
So when we
Yes.
start to remove this, and now you've got to replace, which is something new, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, it's unfamiliar. Well, think of shoes. Right. Well, I don't know. Maybe today with shoes or sneakers, it's not such an issue. But in the old days, when you had leather shoes, right, and you even went to a shoemaker and had them custom made, it doesn't matter. When you first put on those leather shoes, they were uncomfortable, right? You had to wear them in a little bit. But of course, you knew from past experience, because when you got your first pair of shoes, that's all you had. You knew that if you persisted, they would get comfortable. So we have to understand this, that sometimes we have to walk in things a little bit to accommodate and fit them to us, and then they get comfortable. Please share, Jessica, please share. And then Bina too.
So I have a question.
Please.
I was listening and I heard about the part where it's like, who do you have responsibility over? So I have this false belief, and I know it's a false belief because, well, probably just because I've been told it's a false belief. So that's how I know it is. But I have this belief that everybody's my responsibility, making sure that they're okay, making sure that they're okay, like happy and content. But that's when I fail to look at myself. Does that make sense? So how do I go about unlearning that feeling of responsibility for other people and making sure that they have what they need, that they're okay, that they're happy? Like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is it an either or?
No, there's never either or. It's always, I need to make sure everybody else is okay before me.
Okay. So, all right. So
That's where my worry comes from a lot of times.
got you. So when you go and fly on the planes, right, and and they give that pre-talk, when the stewardess comes on, or the steward, right, the attendants. I don't know, they call them flight attendants now, right? See me, I'm still living in the old times. But anyway, what do they tell you in the event that there's the cabin depressurizes and those oxygen masks fall down?
Well, they tell you that you have to put them on, but my thing was, I would make sure everybody else had theirs on before I had mine on.
And yes, when that plane depressurizes and this and you do that, what happens to you?
I start to fall out. I mean,
Right.
that would
On
be
the
when I
plane, in actuality, this happens, is why they emphasize that and make a clear point, right? Because the mother turns to her children and makes sure the children's marks come. But in the meantime, right before she's finished, she runs out of oxygen and she passes out. Now she can't help anybody else.
Described our past.
Exactly. So this is the point of those masks. You cannot help others unless you help yourself first.
Yep, no one's coming to save us.
All right. So, you know, literally what happens is the mother kills herself and her children. It's a horrible, horrible thing. But this is what you need to be aware of. If you don't take care of yourself first, you can't help others. And you actually make it worse, not better. Because if you're in a mess state and you not got your stuff together, you're all over the show, you stressing and worrying, well, all you're doing is you're going to be spreading this. It's like if you've got an infectious disease. If you don't get treated first, you just spread the disease, no?
That's right.
Thank you,
Very
doctor.
true.
Thank you, Dr. Sherman. Yeah, we have it from a doctor, right? This is your responsibility to deal with yourself first is absolutely primary. So the way to overcome this, Jessica, is to say, if I want to truly help, not just think I'm going to be helping, I have to be in a position to be able to help, which means I have to take care of myself first.
Can I share some like
Please. Anytime, guys, jump in. Don't worry about interruptions. I can always go back. It's not a problem. Never
I
a
think
worry.
this example would be like it was kind of like eye-opening for me in the time. I you know, I'm a young I just finished like medical school, so I started my career. And in the hospital, a young lady came up to me and I was, you know, I'm very friendly and she was like, you know, Sherman, can you like mentor me? Like, you know, I would like to finish college and go to medical school.
Wow.
And I agreed. And you know, we would have a meeting at like a coffee shop and we would talk about you know, studying and how to take a test and you know, how to get some projects. But some days after work, I would just be like really anxious and you know, nothing related about like our meeting, you know, just on personal level. And she would tell me, she was like, "Hey, you know, like you look like fidgety and you look like nervous. You know, like you're making me nervous, and
There
I
you
don't know
go.
why." Yeah, and that's when I realized I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, like
yeah,
you know, like our anxiousness, our anxiety can be infectious in like the wrong way.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it made me more like self-aware. I'm like, okay, like I have a responsibility to like uh,
Exactly.
you know, to like manage it, mitigate it.
Exactly. Exactly. I'll give you another example of this. I was pulled over a long time ago, and it was at night. Not particularly late, but anyway. And now, for me, you know, I grew up with a very positive mindset towards police. So I get out of the car, which, you know, okay, when I was new to the country, didn't know stay in the car. And I was like, okay, officer, what's happening? What's the problem? And I'm like very happy and casual because, you know, a positive attitude. This poor policeman was so nervous. He was shaking with nervousness. You know, I was tempted to say to him, say, dude, you know, that nervousness is infectious. If I wasn't confident in myself and had a positive attitude to you, I'd be scared out of my mind right now. And then the two nervousnesses are going to feed off each other. And the next thing you're going to be shooting at me, or I'm going to be running away. Or if I had a gun, I'd be shooting at you, or whatever. You know, it feeds on itself. So what he was doing, his nervousness is dangerous, not just to me, but to him. Yeah. And this is why all these things happen. They feed off each other. So it's absolutely critical that we take care of our own stuff first. But I have another point for you, Jessica, right? There's a deeper point here. Do you feel you deserve your attention and your responsibility?
Not so much right now. No.
There's the issue. There's the issue. See? So when you're taking care of everybody else, well, they deserve it. I don't. So the real issue is not so much responsibility, but your feeling of whether you deserve it or not. And that's a feeling of self-worth. Now, when we really get into this, and we'll go through it as we go through the program, this is a very big point, right? And of course, you're a human being. So to me, you deserve goodness, you deserve love. Doesn't matter what you've done, you deserve to improve. Because if you don't, well, then you just perpetuate the thing. So if you realize that, you know, your stress, your anxiety, your worry is like a virus, and if you don't care it, you're going to, whether you deserve it or not, if you're passing it on to others, they don't deserve it. Yes. So think of it this way, Jessica, you know, in terms of depression, right? I mean, you walk into a room where somebody's really depressed or they're just a sad sack, it's like it pulls you down, right? You feel it. Or if you walk into a room and it's all happy like a party, party that's not working and everything's miserable and it sucks. Wow, this is no good. But somebody with a really powerful, positive attitude, they can pick that mood and that atmosphere up. What I'm trying to say is mood, attitude, mindset, positivity, negativity. These all go out from us, and they project, and they very much like a virus, in other words, right? You can pick up negativity from somebody. You can pick up positivity. So if you don't feel you deserve it, at least work on yourself, because when you just in your daily existence, you project this and you share it and people pick it up from you, and you have a responsibility to them to take care of yourself.
I think a lot of what my feeling I deserve it is, yes, things that I've done in my past, especially during my days of addiction, and then also, my past childhood, but the most recent one has really hit hard. I was discriminated against at a job and they let me go because of my sexual orientation. So
Wow.
that's really kind of hit me hard. It's like adding on top of to the other things
Yeah.
that I struggle with. So that's where I'm talking about. Like, that's why I don't feel like I deserve it, because it in my mind, it proves to me more that the person I am does not deserve to have that, if that makes sense.
It does. It does make sense in its bubble. Does it
Mhm.
make sense in the bigger picture? No. But in its bubble, yes. Right. So this important understanding that things can make sense in their limited context, but as soon as you zoom out a little bit, it doesn't make sense anymore. So in the bigger picture, if other people are irrational and illogical, that's their deal. They are the ones who've got this nonsense. That doesn't mean it's at the that it's you that's at fault. No. So because we are being unfairly targeted to others, the world is full of unfairness, and this is just something that we have to learn to deal with, to expect fairness and justice in everything. Yes, we hope so. We work for this. We would like it to be so. But to expect it, and no, this is just foolishness, right? You're just going to get smacked over the head when it comes your way. So we have to understand it's part of life, and learning to deal with it is likewise part of life. And so then it's like, well, who knows? Now there may be some other logic to this. Now, ask yourself, do you want to stay in a job where people are going to be negative towards you because of your sexual orientation?
Oh, absolutely not. But what blew my
Exactly.
mind the most was that everybody seemed so accepting,
Yeah.
but there was one person who seemed to have had an issue with me, but never portrayed it. And
Yeah.
but internally, I was feeling some animosity come from this specific person,
Right.
but I ignored it, if that makes sense, because I'm
Oh,
always used
absolutely.
to,
Oh, absolutely. It
things
makes
like
sense.
that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, over time, though, what I'm trying to say is that, yes, it's unfairness, but it's also a gift, because you could have stayed there and you could have dealt with that person, and, but now it's saying, hey, you know what? There's other places to be, other opportunities. So if you
Mhm.
think of it, shift your perspective. Instead of seeing it as a negative, you see it as a positive. Oh, okay, cool. It's like now I'm motivated to go look elsewhere, and look more carefully, and be where I really want to be, where I'm accepted and encouraged, and also to learn to say, well, okay, next time maybe I'll be a bit more preemptive with the person and not worry so much, and because if you have a kind of suppressed negativity towards somebody like that, now you're feeding it without meaning to feed it, and then it grows on itself. So there's many things to learn from this. Yes.
Yes, and what you said is exactly what my partner said, is that this was done for a good reason, and I'm like,
Exactly. Exactly. Now,
okay,
now, now,
We
now,
don't want
now,
to
now, now,
believe that.
to me, I always say, people stuff, oh, everything happens for a reason. Well, duh, everything
Mhm.
happens for a reason. That doesn't mean much to me. I always thought it's kind of lame and but dumb to say that. Everything happens for a good reason. Oh, however, I have to qualify that. There are negative reasons involved. The good
Yes.
reason is in there among them. It's up to us to find that good reason, to extract it, to emphasize it, to pull it out. Yes, there's a bunch of crappy reasons, but that doesn't mean there isn't also a good reason. Yes. And so all I need to do is focus on the good reason and say, yes, people are crappy, people are full of nonsense sometimes. Okay, so what? It's part of the mechanism that's helping me to get to the learning, to the gift. And that is profound, to find that good reason. It's unbelievably magical. And sure, if you read her story, and especially now as she's starting to update, and especially coming in the next book, Cher's probably going to be sharing this profoundly, her shift of perspective, where she now sees the incredible, absolute genius, brilliance, awesomeness of all of the most horrid things in her lives, the most terrible, and she's had a terrible life, as most of you know, right? So, or in the past, not now, in the past, but those things had gift in them. They had profound gift in them. And the moment, when you click to that and you realize there's more, this stuff makes sense. I have to just find the context in which it makes sense. It shifts us. It shifts us. It shifts us. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
So like a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely. A capital G gift. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the point
It's a
of
gift from
those
the
gifts,
universe.
yes, always is your awareness. This is the reason for it.
Where it
You
starts.
get the stuff to help you expand, develop, grow, enhance your awareness, right? Your understanding, your awareness, your choices, because awareness, choice, same thing. The more aware you are, the more choices you have.
Mhm.
Simple as that, right?
Awareness to me reminds me, when I think of it, if I were to visualize that, it's like the ripples that you get in a pond. When you drop a pebble in that pond,
Yeah.
like Jessica dropping in this morning is like a pebble in the pond, and now she's created this ripple effect where
Yes.
each wave,
Yes.
each little ripple is even more awareness, expanding more choices, more
Exactly.
opportunities.
Exactly.
So as you go along, Jess and
Exactly.
Sherman, hopefully you'll discover what I have seen, which
Wow.
the more basically we open our minds towards the beginning of things like awareness and
Yeah.
learning to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, the bigger it gets, and then the bigger you feel, the better you start to feel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
Yeah, thank you.
coming back to our oh, go ahead, Sherman.
No, I was just saying thank you.
Ah, yes. So come back to our slide here. Responsibility. If I don't deal with myself, who is going to? Now, when I ask that question, it's kind of a duh question, nobody else. But the problem is, inside our heads, we have, I call them shadow thoughts, right? So in our heads, well, I don't want to deal with my stuff. Somebody's going to come and save me. I'm going to find somebody online or whatever, and they're going to show me what, and they're going to give me the answer, and they're going to magically cure me. Those are shadow thoughts. Now, when you say them out loud, they sound like nonsense, but in our head, they're going there. So we can believe stuff that's complete nonsense. I call them shadow thoughts because they only exist in the shadow inside our brain. The moment you say them and they hit the light, well, they just disappear. Right? That's what shadow thoughts are. So when you say out loud, yes, but if I don't take responsibility for me, who is going to? Nobody else, right? I can't fix you, only you can. And so I may give you choices, options, stuff like this, but nobody can do it for you, right? And so often we see this. People get the actual answers, but they blind to it because they still stuck in some belief or some association or whatever. So when this is why we're starting off with responsibility, that your responsibility is to you first. Now, if you like Jessica says, yes, but I want to help everyone. Fine, keep that, Jessica. That's a very good urge, but be aware that you can't help them if you passed out, like on the plane, right? You can't do that. Or if you have an infectious disease and you're trying to help others with their infectious disease or not get it, you just Typhoon Mary and you just go around spreading the thing, and you're making it worse for everybody because you haven't taken care of yourself first. This is particularly so with any form of negativity. If you don't deal with it first, you end up spreading it around, right? Negativity is the most potent virus we have to deal with. I think, COVID, the capital G part of COVID is the awareness of viruses and how they work and how you really need to take care of yourself and first, otherwise you spread it around. This was something that was not really a big part of society. Now everybody's aware of it. Well, negativity is exactly the same way. So you don't have to think that you deserve your attention, Jessica. But be aware that if you want to not pass it on to others, you have to deal it first. So leverage that feeling of yours of wanting to do others first. But say, if I truly want to be of help, I have to take care of myself first. Yes. So you're taking
Yes,
care of
and
yourself
this is
in order to help them.
yes, and this is one of the reasons why I decided to join today was because of the simple fact that I have noticed that
Yeah.
my own personal issues in my head, just
Yes.
the thoughts that I have, the things that I
Yes.
always I guess what's the word? I replace it with, oh, but it's a protective mechanism. It
Yes.
keeps me from getting hurt.
Yes.
So I tend to
Yes.
jump ship or I shut
Yes.
down, and it affects
Yes.
those around me, especially when I
Yes.
shut down and become
Yes.
emotionless. And
Yes.
so it's learning that's one of the biggest things is learning how to get that under control. So I am not affecting others around me,
There
because
you go.
3 times within less than a month have I been told that it's getting worse. And even when your own partner tells you like you need to
Yeah.
stop trying to work for now and take care of yourself,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
something, like
Yeah.
that means
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, but that's just a little small point of implication, right? Sherman was sharing about, going on dates and connecting and basically getting with somebody, right? And this was, where he's worrying and stuff is coming into play. So I just want to point out to you, Jessica, you have a partner.
Yes, I have a partner.
That's my point.
She's willing to deal with me.
Right,
But see,
Sherman?
here's the thing
Sherman?
is that
Sherman?
I'm listening.
Right. I'm saying Jessica has a partner. Yes.
Uh,
In other words,
I get,
she,
I understand that fact, but I'm not sure what you're saying between the
right.
lines.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that, you were talking about where you were going on dates and looking to get a partner, and this was a source of anxiety and worry. So Jessica has one. She's already somehow solved that problem.
I mean, I think I believe that I have it within myself to solve the problem too. I just need to be patient and be
Exactly.
confident.
Exactly. But I'm trying to say something, just in terms of self-appreciation, right? That Jessica, you might not feel you deserve goodness or whatever, but you have a partner. Somebody feels you deserve this. See my point? There's implications to
Oh,
this.
I see what you're saying.
Right. And
Like
also, just in
somebody.
terms of anxiety and worry, you may be worried about, or thinking too much about dating and getting a partner. But, for Jessica, she's in a relationship already. So this obviously is not so much of an issue. Right, Jessica?
yeah, well, I still fear of losing her. I still
I know,
fear
I know,
things
I know.
getting to be
I'm
too
just
much.
making the
But
point. Yeah, yeah.
what
But,
I do to help with that is that I realize that she met me at my rawest point. I was less than a year clean, and she
wow.
met me at my rawest point, and she still stuck with me. She still loved me because she saw something in me that
There
I'm
you go.
having a hard time seeing in myself. But
Mhm.
Yeah,
it's time that I see
yeah,
that in myself and what
yeah,
she sees in me, if that makes sense.
yeah,
And it does
yeah,
help to
yeah.
know that, like, you know, there are people that see the rawness in you, but they also see something deeper.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's the
Exactly.
mornings.
That's the moreness. Exactly. Exactly. Now, this is so for everybody, and it's just a matter of, playing the numbers. Dale Carnegie, you may have heard of him, right? Big in self-improvement. But Dale Carnegie also, he was about lots more than just self-improvement. But one thing that was important, this was during the time of the Great Depression. And his job, the only job he could find at the time, was being an insurance salesman, right? Like the worst possible job at the worst possible times with the lowest probability of success. So what he did was he knocked on doors and said, "You don't want insurance, do you?" A negative. It's called a negative opening, right? And the people say, "Yeah, you're right." But he said 1 in 10, it was just a matter of numbers or whatever. I forget the numbers. But eventually people said, "Well, no, actually, I do want." Right. So he said, look, it didn't matter how successful, whatever, how you started. He started with a negative. And even so, he got result. Why? Because it's just numbers. So when it comes to dating and finding your partner, sometimes it's just about numbers. Doesn't matter, even if you're doing something that's negative that may put them off. Doesn't matter. Somebody else sooner or later is going to say, oh, but you know what? I see past all your stuff. Like you said, you met your partner at your lowest point. So realize this, and I'm sharing this a little bit just from an awareness point for Sherman. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter what you do, Sherman. Somebody's going to see you for who you are at some point. Just play the numbers, right?
Thank you.
Make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's like at the casino, right?
Exactly. Just play the numbers. Now, the casino plays the numbers because they make sure the odds are in their favor long term, right? But it doesn't mean that at some point you can't get lucky at the casino either. Exactly. Now, I want to bring this point of responsibility, and this is a big deal. And you brought up something that we don't always want to take responsibility for two reasons. Honesty. If I don't have that honesty and self-honesty to acknowledge that there is a problem, I can't progress past that, because I'm going to say, I don't want to take responsibility. I don't want to open up. I don't want to be honest, because, when it's this mess inside and it's all this, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. So I shut it down and I never get there, right? So this is why this first point of acknowledgement, and therefore, is so huge, right? It's a massive deal. Otherwise, it's a block and we don't get any further. Furthermore, we may say, we don't want to go there. Well, I know there's a lot of stuff. It's not that I'm being dishonest, but it's just too much effort to deal with. And that's like, I don't want to take that energy and effort. So I'm just going to pretend it doesn't exist. Of course, then you just make it worse later, but fine. I'm just saying these are reasons why we don't want to take responsibility. Overwhelm, too much energy, too much effort, not wanting to be honest about it, because I don't want to acknowledge that I've got all this crap and stuff and nonsense inside me. Think I'm just the bee's knees and wonderful. Now, this doesn't apply to you guys, obviously, but I'm just saying there are some people who absolutely refuse to acknowledge, narcissists, that they need to work on themselves, and they live in this bubble, this illusion. And it's this devastating, of course. It's terrible, the narcissist
Yeah.
psychology is the most sad thing ever, I mean, for them, they cannot learn. So this responsibility to ourselves is very, very big deal, right? To start, and the honesty, of course, and acknowledging the energy. Now, I want to
Mhm.
say something, right? I think that, does it come into the program, the awful truth? I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Acknowledgement of problem, if done in full self-honesty, implies we need to do more than mere acknowledgement. Yeah. So you got to do something, and that's a big point. So I do believe that we touch on the awful truth somewhere, right? Bina, do you remember the awful truth coming to this?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it
All right. So
is.
I'll wait till we get there. I tend to jump ahead a little bit here. So, all right. So please share with us what your responsibilities are to yourself in the context of anxiety and worry in this program. So, Bina, I know you have something interesting here, right? I think you mentioned. Please share.
Yes.
You muted. You muted, Bina.
Yes, sorry, I had to come out
Oh,
of
oh, oh.
this Facebook Live because that created dual voice. Anyway, okay, yes, responsibility. It's a big deal. So okay, so for me, those questions were okay. Before that, I was just thinking that I think I shared this before. I guess. Okay. Anyway, I'm just reading it. Acknowledging the existence of a problem by implication is an acknowledgement for the need of replacement. Replacement is a significant mechanism in itself to make the obvious really obvious, and works in a twofold way. One, it signifies that there is a problem which we need to change, and the other is to actually we have something to replace it, which is already available. Once we acknowledge the problem, by implication, we also acknowledge that accountability is also in play. Who can be responsible for our lives other than us? And when we acknowledge that we are responsible, then we go further and look for details of responsibility towards ourselves, to others, and most importantly, accept that it is our own responsibility to find or create a solution or resolution. These questions, when you were asking, they are like, okay, seemingly very simple but quite complex questions, that your responsibility towards yourselves in the context of this course. So once we will write down our responsibilities, by implication, it means that we accept and consciously acknowledge that being anxious and worried in any situation is our choice. and every choice comes with responsibility.
Yes.
So for me, every responsibility is the confirmation that we have made a choice to practice our deliberate power.
Yes. To
So it's just a simple understanding.
To
Yes.
practice our what?
Deliberate power.
To practice our deliberate power. Huge.
Yep.
Huge, 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 huge. Yes. We
So
can be
yes,
different to how we think we're supposed to be or how we are. We can be different. Very different.
yes. So it was just a simple understanding, but it opens up the mind and eliminates the helplessness.
Yes.
Instead, it makes us aware how empowered we actually are. After being aware of our choices, we cannot ignore our responsibility. We simply cannot ignore or
Exactly.
create an uncomfortable, negative, or panicking situation for
Exactly.
others. And also, we
Exactly.
cannot waste our energy anymore. Because once we
Yes.
acknowledge that it was this responsibility is coming via the choices I have made in my past and what I was doing at that time, I was empowered enough to make choices. It means that I was not helpless. I could choose something else, but now I have choose this. So I was practicing my deliberate power.
Yes.
And when I can do it once, I can do it always.
There you go. There you go. That's huge. That's huge, huge, huge.
So mostly when
Big
we
deal.
get anxious or worried, we feel helpless. This
Yeah.
is the consequence of just
There it
feeling
is.
helpless, and then we start feeling anxious and worried about that.
Right.
Okay, what will be in the
Right.
future? As
Right.
you mentioned that worry bees only buzz in the future, so we worried about that. But we simply ignore that fact that this responsibility of my life and these situations are coming as a consequences of my choices.
There you
And it
go.
is right now I have this ability to make another choice.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
Now,
this sense of empowerment is a huge deal.
exactly. Exactly. So let me ask a really potent question. And I want to ask this of Sher also. Well, all of you, but specifically for the two of you now, right? So, in other words, it was about your choices, and you came to realize at some point that you had choices which you didn't realize you had before. In the past, you didn't think these
Yes,
choices existed. They didn't exist to you, but they do exist. And
exactly.
this awareness that there are choices that exist that I'm not aware of, this is very powerful. Yes? In other
Yes,
words, the world does not work
Work
the way
the
we
way
think it
I think
does.
it does.
yes, yes, always, always.
Absolutely.
Let me emphasize that. So Sherman and Jessica, you're in a situation and you're stressed, you're worrying, you don't know how to deal with it. And typically this happens because you don't see any choices, you don't see any options.
Mhm.
And the options you have aren't good options. And now it's like, what do I do? What do I do? And this is where the stress and anxiety comes from. Because you believe, or most of us, when we don't see additional options, we believe they don't exist, right? Or, we say, oh, well, there may be options, but I can't access them. In other words, we don't see a way forward, we get stuck. But once we come to realize that the world doesn't work with the way we think of it think it does. In other words, that there are ways to do things that we never even imagined. The world works differently. It's just too fantastic. So this is a big, big point. Plus, to understand also that I might be operating from inside the bubble. And yes, I'm looking at my choices and they're inside the bubble. But if I could expand my understanding and awareness, look bigger picture, I'll start to see more options. And this is where awareness comes in as so powerful. The more awareness, the more choices, the more options. Awareness and choice, synonymous, same thing. Right. So the key point here is to not get stuck on the options that we can see and say, well, these aren't good options. Now I'm stuck. No, there are other options. And to just remember that there are other options. Whether I can see them as yet or not, it doesn't matter. Just knowing there are other options makes your brain open to seeing those options. Right. So when we can't imagine something, we typically can't see it. But once we can imagine it, we can start to see it comes into our lives. Very powerful. Does that make sense, Sherman,
Tina.
Jessica?
Yeah, it does. I really like that. It's like if you if you only see like the negative side of things, like that's kind of what becomes your reality,
Right.
and you make it your reality. But then if you like open up your eyes to, like, other possibilities of like,
Exactly.
you know, then that also can become your reality.
Exactly. Huge deal. All right, take the typical narcissist, or as I call them, BMNs, which stands for bullshit manipulator narcissist. I got a whole book on this, right? Anyway, it's very powerful because that's where it starts. It starts with, starts with them being involved in the bullshit, and then it grows from there, and then they manipulate, and then they get into the narcissism, and all ties together. And the thread that ties together is the superiority paradigm, hierarchy. Being higher and lower in the hierarchy, superiority. You've got to be higher, you can't be lower, and all this stuff, right? So it's all about to them, strength and weakness, everything. They're fighting with everybody in a sense. Basically, like if you go look at lions or hyenas or whatever, you see that hierarchy. But here's the point. I'm trying to make a point about if you cannot imagine something, you don't see it to exist. Yeah. So you come along to a BMN and you act from a point of genuine kindness or nobility. They cannot imagine this. It doesn't exist in their world. So all they see is weakness. And they pounce on it and they, well, you're just being weak. That's all they see. They cannot see it for what it really is. They can't imagine something like kindness. Well, kindness, they say, we have an idea about because it's still a word, but they just see it as weakness. But nobility, oh, hell no. They got no clue. It just doesn't exist for them. So this is a sad, sad reality. But this is a nice example of how if we can't conceive of something, it doesn't exist for us, even though it's right there in front of your face. It's knocking on your door, it's pressing you. So this expanding is important. And so but I don't know what to imagine. Doesn't matter. We can open that door to moreness coming at us simply by saying, oh, you know what? The world doesn't work the way I think it does. So I have to be aware of this. The moment I start to say, oh, there could be things that will surprise me. They could work differently. I never thought that it could work this way, but it can. Just that alone, I'm not being specific. I'm just opening up the conception, the idea. I'm expanding my brain to be ready for those surprises, those alternative options to come at me. Now I'm at least sort of, a little bit alert and looking around. I'm not stuck in my bubble. I'm not just saying, oh, no, 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 there isn't. No, 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 there isn't. Because if I say, no, 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 there isn't, of course, I'm reinforcing this and I'm creating a reality in which there are no other options. Yes. And this is a very powerful, powerful mechanism to just be open. And of course, there have to be other options because, well, if you look around you, the things that you struggle to deal with, there are people in the world that have dealt with those particular issues. So if they can do it, you can do it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Is it okay? Quick question though.
Please.
You were talking about, how narcissists work and stuff and being stuck in your own bubble. And from personal experience, I know how narcissists do work and how the feeling goes of how they make you feel like you're smaller than them. Is it possible? Like, is that a possibility to continue to carry on the same psychological limitations that a narcissist set on you after you've left them?
Yes, 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 absolutely. Because it's like a virus. You get infected with the virus from somebody, and they leave your presence. You still have the virus. And so psychological things, again, they're very much like viruses. You get an idea into your head. It's like, a program. Somebody comes, they fiddle around on your computer, they download a program, and they leave, but the program is still on your computer. So yes, absolutely, we can be affected by things after people have left. Absolutely, yeah. And again, it just is a matter of dealing with it, paying attention to it, and again, awareness. Yeah. So yeah, lots of that stuff. Again, too, the superiority paradigm, which is what underlines this whole logic. It's a paradigm, which means it's everything. It's everywhere, right? That's what a paradigm means. It's pervasive. It's the dominant prevailing way of doing things. So the superiority paradigm is what we grow up in and live in. Everything is about, you've got to be the best, you've got to be number one, all of this stuff. It's all about competition. This is what all of this higher, lower, better. It's like, come on, all right. There are other paradigms. There's a play paradigm, there's a cooperation paradigm. There's a collaboration paradigm. So to get into this, right, since we live in this world where the superiority paradigm is believed to be the thing and it gets pushed all the time, it's not actually so. We really do collaborate, and we have to, because otherwise we get nothing done. So if we look at nature and we say, oh, king of the jungle is the lion. All right. Well, not really, because when the elephant comes by, the lion has to get out of the way. So it's complete nonsense. But of course, the lion is the champion BMN. It absolutely believes it, and it huffs and it puffs and it's got all this stuff going on, right? And same with the hyenas. Now, hyenas and lions, they battle each other for superiority all the time. So never mind king of the jungle, but they're both stuck in the superiority paradigm. Who is the most successful hunter in Africa? It's called the African wild dog. Much smaller, they aren't very big, the wild dogs, right? Way smaller than the lions, but they're the most successful hunters. Why? Because they collaborate and they share their food. When the lions and the hyenas make a kill, they all fight over the food. Terrible. Right. So even though they aren't as powerful and all this as the hyenas and the lions, they're still the most successful hunters because they can learn to collaborate. My point that I'm making is other ways of doing things. Right. The lions never look at the dogs and say, dang, these guys are a lot smaller than us, but they have no problems. Is there a better way of doing things? Yes, there is. Lions is a much better way of doing things, right? They share, they collaborate. Very, very powerful. Unbelievable. It's really, really a simple point, but it's a big point. So I'm making the point that even though some things are paradigms, they don't have to be. We can shift out of them, right? And the paradigm is a false paradigm because, well, you get BMNs tend to end up in power because I have to be number one. I have to be in charge. So the worst people set the tone. They set the culture. So the things that we typically believe are supposed to be and should, they all come from the worst possible sources. Yeah. So just pay attention to that, to look at the paradigm that you're in. And always don't buy into stuff. So if you're not sure about something and you test it, good rule of thumb is just turn it on its
Hold
head
on.
and look at the opposite, and there you'll find value. Go ahead.
Oh,
Somebody
no,
want-
I think she was just saying, just a
Oh.
second or something.
Oh, right. So, this idea of turning things upside down is you don't go to the direct opposite, but you go somewhere in the region of opposite, and then you explore laterally from there. You move around, and this gives you perspective on the problem. It's a very, very valuable technique. Sherman, in your medical practice, this will be very valuable also, right? If you get really stuck on something, you go to I call it the planet of opposite, and this is part of the philosophy of opposite. Right? You go to the planet of opposite and you move laterally from there. And now you get massive perspective. You're looking at things from a totally different way than what you conventionally look at it. So this is a fantastic, fantastic way of problem solving and jumping out of the limitations. In other words, getting past those expectations, that normality, and connecting to the way the world works sometimes that surprises us, right? It works in different ways. Yeah. Very, very powerful technique. All right. I just want to say hello to Ryan. Glad you're here, Ryan. Most excellent, mate. And we can't pronounce your name, squiggly name. That's all I can see. It just looks squiggly to me. So
It
squiggly
is
name.
Umar Al-Qasi.
Say again, please, Bina.
Umar Al-Qasi.
Omar. Okay, Omar. All right. I'll just call you Omar. Fantastic, mate. I'm happy you're here and learning to speak English. That's fantastic. So very cool. And yes, CJ says, no need to apologize for happy mistakes. Exactly. So many times what we think is a mistake is actually a gift. I call them fortuitous mistakes. All we need is to develop this habit of looking at things differently and not to insist that a mistake is the end of the world. So often a mistake is a fortuitous mistake, and we get to jump into an entirely different way of doing things. All right. So since we're on this point of different ways of thinking, I'll tell you a little story about fortuitous mistakes. So there's this group of soldiers, and they out on patrol, and they're in the jungle, and they're walking around, and they come to a place where it's a clearing in the jungle, but it's a clearing that's like a little slope, a gradual slope, and it's leading upwards. And I say, oh well, at the end there's, I don't know, they go up the slope and see what's on the end. And when they get to the end of the slope, they look down and they say, oh, it's, it's kind of a canyon. There's a river at the bottom, right? And as they're standing there, one of them, just out of the blue, one bright spark, called Sherman, decides to jump into the river. What the hell, the lieutenant says, and the sergeant is like, come on, and he's shouting at it. But it's too late now. They've got to follow him because, well, if they don't follow him, he's going to go off and get lost. And so they all have to jump into the river, right? But the very last thing, the lieutenant who's the last to jump, as just before he jumps, he looks down back at the slope towards the jungle, and he starts to see the enemy patrol emerging. Now, the enemy patrol hasn't seen them yet, so he quickly jumps before they do. But he realized if Sherman hadn't jumped into the river, right, they'd all be dead because the enemy would have seen them. They would have been trapped there. They would have had to jump anyway. And then the enemy would rush to the top of the little slope there, look down and shoot them while they're in the water. But because they didn't see them, because Sherman just fortuitously jumped ahead, oh, wow, he saved them all. Now, later, when Sherman was asked, why did you jump in the river? Sherman just said, I don't know, it just seemed the right thing to do at the time. My point is, the world doesn't always work the way we think it does. For whatever reason, Sherman did something that was unreasonable, illogical, crazy, but he saved the whole platoon. He had no idea. Doesn't matter. Still, the end result was, right? Now, the lieutenant may or may not have seen that other patrol. Yeah, luckily he did, so it made sense to him. But, if he hadn't, they still would have been saved. But poor Sherman would have been in bigger trouble than he was, right? So we don't know. It's a powerful story to say we don't always get to see the bigger picture. But the world doesn't always work the way we think it does. So again, Sherman was motivated by who knows what, but it worked. Yes. Okay. I'm just using you for example, Sherman, because, well, you're a young man that does things differently. So you're convenient for me. Thank you.
No
It's a
problem.
powerful story though, right?
Yeah, it is.
Makes us think. Makes us think, not to be so certain that when we get stuck, when we worry, when we've got a problem, that there isn't a solution. The world doesn't always work the way we think it does. So we're going to train our minds to think differently, to jump into that river sometimes not knowing what's going on. And it may seem like a mistake, but it's a fortuitous mistake. Yes, right, CJ? Fortuitous
Yeah.
mistake. They happen. They happen. They happen. Yeah. Now, the key to that is, of course, when we're not just going to go around making mistakes and trusting they're going to be good. No, you got to be impeccable. And this is where Way-of-Impeccability now comes into it. When you've
Yeah.
done everything that you can do, you've been thorough, you've been scrupulous, you've been diligent. I've gone through every possible thing. I've thought the thing through to the end. I've shifted to multiple perspectives. I've done everything I can do. And still, and then I make my decision and I do it. And then if it doesn't work out, then I can be confident that it's going to be a fortuitous mistake. If it's a mistake because I was lazy and I didn't care and I was sloppy and careless and all this stuff, well, that's a different story. Well, now you know why you had a mistake, because, well, you were crappy. All right, that's very simple. But so be impeccable first. Make sure that you're not crappy. And then you're going to know that, hey, I did everything I can and it still didn't work out. Okay, I need to learn more. I need to know more. But also, there's some gift in this, like in the case of Sherman jumping into the river there, right? Or Sher or Jessica. Right? Doesn't matter. You guys jumped into the river. And now you say, well, you know what? I didn't understand it, but I had no choice at the time. This was all I could do. And then we start to look for that magic, that moreness, right? That fortuitousness. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. All right. So let's
Okay, so
continue.
we have Cheryl with us also.
Cheryl! Brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Ah, just love you, Cheryl. How are you? How are you? I'm glad you're here. I'm
Thanks,
glad you're here.
Sharon.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cheryl Berry's busy, so I'm glad you could join, even just to listen. That's awesome. That's awesome. Wonderful. Thanks for saying, Bina. Very cool. Very cool. I love it when people come and join. It's just magical. Even if you're just listening, it doesn't matter. It just makes me very happy. I really like it. So always valuable. All right. So we've been talking about this. Please share what your responsibilities are towards others, such as your family, loved ones, co-workers, etc., when it comes to remedying your anxiety and worry. So, Jessica, let me ask you this. Don't you have a responsibility towards your partner to deal with your anxiety and worry?
Yes, and that's what I was gonna ask earlier before my dog decided to go
Ah,
crazy at the door. So basically taking responsibility and the fact that I am still following the same essential program that was done inside, basically psychologically done for many years. And I am worrying about, I'm worrying about too much about like, if I'm doing the wrong thing, if I'm acting the wrong way, if I'm saying something wrong, or, you know, things like that. And I know that she would, or anybody else would let me know, hey, look, like, you know, I don't like that, or hey, you know, stuff like that. But
Yeah, yeah,
it's a constant worry if I'm always doing the right thing.
yeah,
Especially when
yeah,
it comes into my interpersonal relationships as well. So um that's where that responsibility lies, is
yeah.
that I have to work towards that.
Yeah.
I have to work on unlearning all of that part
Yes.
and
Yes.
reinventing
Yes.
me, for me,
Yes.
not
Yes. Yes.
the person somebody else has wanted for so many years.
Let me back up just a point here that you said. I'm always worrying about doing the right thing.
Mm,
That's a huge point. And this is why my main core program is Way of Impeccability, because we
yep.
cannot know what the right thing is. All I can know is whether I'm being impeccable or not. I don't know. I don't have access to universal information. I don't have access to the bigger picture. I may be doing what I believe is the right thing and it turns out to be wrong. This happens all the time, right? But if I've been impeccable, I have no regrets. So all I can worry about and concerned about and think about, I don't even want to worry about it, is have I been impeccable? Yes, no. If not, then I keep doing until I feel confident that I've been impeccable, and then it's easy, right? I cannot know if it's the right thing or not. This is outside of my field of vision. This is universal. This is bigger. I can't see that. So when we shift from worrying about doing the right thing to being concerned about being impeccable, life changes completely. Just like that, Jessica, just like that, right? Now, what exactly is impeccability? Yes, there's a lot to it, but like I was saying, it's best use of your energy. That's the core definition. So being thorough, being scrupulous, being diligent, continuing to do what is right according to you, to your conscience. Impeccability is about satisfying your conscience. Yes. So if your conscience is not satisfied yet, then there's more to do. And you say, well, I haven't done enough yet. I've got more to do. But when you say, okay, you know what, I've done enough. My conscience is satisfied. I'm going to make my decision. If it turns out bad, so what? I was being impeccable. I won't feel bad. That's it. It's just too bad. I couldn't help it. You know, as far as I know, I did everything I could. I researched, I checked. All right, there we go. I'm at peace with my decisions. See? So now I'm not worried about whether it's the right thing or not. I'm going to trust that even if it's in the short term the wrong thing, that it's going to be right in the big. It's going to be a fortuitous mistake for somebody else or for me, either way. And sometimes, again, you know, look at that soldier that jumped into the river, right? That was you. Say, I don't know, but you know, I'm checking my conscience. I feel this. I really feel that I need to do this. I have no idea why, but I feel so, okay. And you say impeccably, I have to do this. It satisfies my conscience. There you go. You jump. It turns out good. So we don't know. Sometimes we have to just take that leap, you know, and trust. But for the most part, we get time to really think it through and practice and be diligent and be scrupulous and make sure our conscience is at peace. Then we can act, and it doesn't matter what happens. Yes, sir. Sure. Did you say something?
No, I muted myself.
Oh! I thought you were saying something.
Nope.
So I mean, and in your case, sure, right? Let's take
Okay.
this, right? Guilt and shame was a big part of your life. Yes.
The foundation of my life, yes, it was my lifeblood.
Right. At some point, but then you started to realize that. Wait a second. You know, when I do stuff and when I look at it this from a point of my conscience and my impeccability, what in the hell is I'm feeling ashamed and guilty about stuff that other people did, not me.
Yes,
Just change
yes,
things, right? And then you said, well, I was ignorant at the time. I was in a bubble. I was foolish. I was an nincompoop. It's like, man, yes, but mainly I was just ignorant. I didn't know. I didn't know any better. I can't be ashamed of that. That's just part of life, you know? I mean, I was a baby at one point, ignorant, and I pooped in my pants on a daily basis. I don't do that anymore. So I can't get stuck on this idea that I should know everything. And if I don't know everything, now somehow I'm guilty. No, it's all about your conscience and your impeccability. No matter how little you know, you have a conscience. And if you listen to that and you look at people who really struggle and suffer, and particularly look at the BMNs, they are miserable because they know they go against their conscience on a regular basis. They
Yes.
do it deliberately. They overstep that line. They've even become comfortable in that line of overstepping their confidence. And once you get comfortable in that, when you cross that red line into that wasteland of poor decisions and unimpeccable decisions, you're lost. I mean, this is a terrible place to be. But for the most part, they know they cross that line, and it really bites them and pulls them down, right? If you really study them, you'll see this. It's a big deal. So just use that as your guideline, not whether it's the right thing or not. We can't know this, Jessica. Yeah? Does that help?
Yes, it does.
It shifts things, right? It shifts things profoundly. So, all right, Sherman, next time you're on a date, don't think whether you're doing the right thing, saying the right thing. Is this going to work, not going to work? Is it going to go somewhere? Whatever. No. Are you being impeccable according to your conscience? Is your conscience satisfied? That's all that matters, right? So you can say whatever you like as long as it satisfies your conscience. Doesn't matter. You'll be surprised when you start to just share and be open and honest and not worry, because of course that worry is also an infection, like that policeman that makes like that person said to you, you're making me nervous. So you have a responsibility. And when you say my responsibility is not to doing the right thing, but to being impeccable, that's a different thing, because the right thing is going to be taken care of when you're impeccable. Very simple. Very big point. Very massive big point. Does it connect for you, Sherman?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, a very simple point, but it's a huge point. Now, part of Way of Impeccability is a lot more to it. Obviously, it's why it's the core program. But I struggle to do these programs without bringing it in, because it so affects everything. So that's why none of my programs can really stand on their own. They all interconnect. So this is a massive, massive big deal here. And when we come to realize this responsibility, it's my impeccability says, wait a second, hold on a second. You know what? If I've got to something's going on, it's me. It's how I deal with it. Whether somebody's being unfair or not, that's their issue. However, what is mine is how I respond to it, how I deal with it. Now, again, I might not be able to actually change their actions. Like, let's say you're a prisoner of war, but how I react and respond to their complete ridiculous nonsense, it's up to me. Now, if you actually read prisoner of war stories, it will blow your mind. You have to read a bunch of them, but typically the ones that get published and are popular are ones that are completely not what you'd expect. You're going to expect to say, okay, we suffered and we struggled and we had to deal with this. But if you really read some of them, you'll say the end point, the person says, you know what, me being in that prison of war was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And some of them will say it flat out. They'll say it was the best thing that happened in my life. It changed me. It made me from somebody who felt like a victim to not feeling like a victim. Well, wait a second, but you were in the prisoner of war camp. Weren't you a victim? They say, no, I was not a victim. How the hell do you get that right? You were a prisoner of war. Victim is a psychology, not an actuality. Yes, technically, I guess, they were a victim, but in psychological, they said, no, I was in charge of my emotions, not them. Right? No matter what they did to me, I was in charge. And I learned this, and man, it changed my entire life. If I hadn't been there, I would have continually gone through life thinking that other people are in charge of my happiness. Life is in charge of my happiness. Circumstance in charge of my happiness. In that prisoner of war camp, I realized I was me, and me alone. So this is very common for people who really leverage that type of a situation, no matter how terrible. Holocaust survivors going through that, some of them will tell you the same thing, right? It was profound. It changed them, and their whole lives as a consequence changed, because they learned this fundamental lesson. Life doesn't work the way we think it does. We think that our happiness comes from outside of us. Life is in charge of my happiness, right? I mean, we look at the weather and we say, oh, what a beautiful day, right? Implying that the weather makes me happy. What complete, absolute rubbish. It's how you react to the weather. I love rainy days, right, Sher? You're in
Yes,
charge.
yes, absolutely. Hey, so I want to do on this responsibility part and impeccability. I had a thought that somebody had brought up to me several months ago. Well, isn't my mindset, my new mindset about responsibility, avoiding responsibility? And no, it's not. It depends on my intent.
Wow.
It's based on my intent. I believe anyways.
Yeah.
Am I, saying that I was ignorant at that time, that I was doing the best that I could? Are those all excuses? No, because to me, it went back to, well, what was my intent at the time?
Right.
What was my intent now?
Right.
Am I
Right.
making sense?
Yes. And you are taking responsibility for your ignorance.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
because that's,
Yeah.
there's nothing worse to me, for me personally, than not intentionally seeking to understand.
Right. Right. So
If I'm
see,
going to,
yeah.
if I'm going to avoid, blatantly, deliberately avoid something, then somebody
Yeah.
go ahead and hold me responsible
Yeah.
for that. But if I am seeking to understand
Yeah.
and I'm looking for alternative ways of thinking about my responsibility, thinking about reconciling and finding resolution for things that I felt I needed to be ashamed of or guilty for in my past, basically, if I'm not willing to take any action,
Yeah.
then yeah,
Yeah.
I'm using that as an excuse.
Yeah.
But so I guess I just wanted to just make that difference to me anyways. I needed to express that there's a difference between taking responsibility with an intent to do ourselves good, to take back our power, to
Exactly.
claim what's ours,
Exactly. Exactly.
versus the intent of,
Exactly.
I'm going to do this to avoid everything and avoid somebody holding
Exactly.
me responsible.
Exactly. 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 And the chief part of responsibility says, I am in charge of my well-being. My moods are mine.
That's it.
I choose them. Now,
Yes.
yes, I may have a lot of habit, that creates my moods. To be aware, that's why in Way of Impeccability we deal with habit, and habit is a huge deal to deal with, right? So
Yeah.
this is a big point to understand that yes, I am taking responsibility, but there are stuff that's going to perpetuate this. It doesn't necessarily always change on a dime like that, right? So it's a
Right.
big deal. But I'm in charge of my happiness, me and me alone. Yes, I may have a bit of a battle and I've got to work at it and I've got to practice and I've got to make effort. Yes, but that's just dealing with habit for the most part. And also, figuring out where are my beliefs that cause me to believe things are so when they aren't so. What beliefs am I treating as facts? We'll get into it in the program as we go along. It's a very big point.
Mhm.
Very big point. Lots to it. Lots to it.
Okay.
I wanted to make another point. Oh, I want to respond to CJ real quick. He says, do shadow thoughts create conflict with your ego? Yes, they can, CJ. You can think of a shadow thought of like a starting pattern or a starting path. Like, okay, we've created our town, our village, and we make a path and we start a road. And we said, okay, I think that road is going to go to the city. And we just assume that it does. But meanwhile, it's going in completely the wrong direction. It'll take you everywhere else. But because we believe it takes us to the city, we treat it as if it's a valid, real road. Of course, as soon as we start to go down it, we realize, no, we're going in the wrong way. We're going the opposite way. So yes, because shadow thoughts are incomplete, they falsities. We believe they are valid when they aren't actually valid, because we just assuming, we sort of trusting, because we haven't explored fully. That's why they're shadows, like that starting path, right? You believe it's going in the right direction, but until you actually travel it, you're not going to know. So they're incomplete thoughts. And so, yes, they can create lots of conflict. Absolutely, absolutely, lots of conflict. But when you really think it through all the way to the end, it's critical to think things through to the end. You won't know where that path is going until you travel it to the end, right? So very important. So you gotta take shadow thoughts and unravel them until you really say, oh, I see, okay, yes. Because some things can fool you into believing they're valid, right? You go step one, oh, this makes sense. Oh, this makes sense. But then you get, oh, yeah, I see now. All right, yeah, I see now why it doesn't work, right? You have to go all the way and not just stuck in the beginning. Very, very important. Yeah. So that's what the repeat backs and the takeaways are all about. They provide this opportunity for us to really think about the shadow thoughts, to really express it. And when we do, we come to get awareness of ourselves. It's very, very powerful. You get to hear yourself. It's very powerful. Now, we've been mostly doing takeaways. We haven't really been doing repeat backs because of the way the slides are, and that doesn't matter. We'll look at it in a moment here. So the repeat back is to make sure, so far what's been on the slides is been very, very basic and very simple. So there's not really much to it. But But a repeat back is to make sure that I understand what's being said. All right, so let me read this and I'll give you an example. One of the most significant, all right, we're shifting to a new subsection here, facing and dealing with the awful truth, right? This is a big deal because we said now already we've
Still, you are
established.
not sharing screen.
Thank you, Bina, thank you, Bina, thank you, Bina.
And Cher has a raised hand, so maybe she wants to add
Okay.
something.
Before I go, please share.
No, that, I just didn't put my hand back down after I spoke.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Vina.
But yeah, you don't
Okay.
even worry to put that up because sometimes I get involved and I don't see that. Just jump in, just interrupt me. I have no problem with being interrupted.
Okay.
It's not an issue.
See, there's that worry coming in. It's like, but is it polite?
I don't
Yeah.
care. I don't care. It's
Mm.
yeah. It's more polite to interrupt me than it is to not say what you need to say. I will
Well,
take
Cher, it's
that
only
as
me.
a rudeness. So I'm gonna leverage your rudeness here. See. So if you
Yeah,
don't
Cher,
say,
it's only me. I don't feel comfortable just jumping in, so that's why I do that.
yeah.
yeah,
But
but I mean, but it's true. It's
Yeah.
just like that Southern thing, some people say, well, just come on in. It's like, no, you knock on my door.
I know. I appreciate that, and I do try to pay attention. So one way also you can do this without even putting the hand up is just mute and unmute. If you unmute, then I think you want to say something. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So that also helps.
Okay.
But still, please feel free to jump in. Truly, it's never a problem. All right. So we established that we have responsibility. Now we said, yes, but I don't want to look at all that stuff down there. It's too ugly. It's like, no, man, come on. Oh, I'm gonna get depressed if I start paying attention to all these things going on in me, right? That's why some people avoid the responsibility because when they look inside and they look with honesty, they see awful truth. Too awful. I don't want to deal with it. So this is what we are going to be paying attention now. Facing and dealing with the awful truth. It's a huge deal. Now, I want to just illustrate a repeat back and takeaway on the slide. So I'm going to read through it and then I'm going to do a repeat back of it and explain why and why it's important. Right. So one of the most significant bottlenecks to learning and growing is the inability to deal with and face the awful truth. It's huge. A very big deal. If we can't be thoroughly self-honest and deal with those truths we believe to be so ugly, we can't face them. We won't ever get onto the path of learning and change, and we'll be stuck in our nonsense until we do. Okay, I sure can maybe ask me or Bina say, or Sherman, Jessica say, Sil, do you understand what you read? And I'll say, yeah, I understand. How do I know I understood?
It's like,
Anybody?
you understand it if you apply it, right?
That's one way. But how do I know I understood according to what was meant? If I apply it, I'm still understanding it how I think I understand it. Yes, I can look at result and consequence, but I can't be sure I know I understood what whoever wrote that meant. The only way I can be sure I understood what they meant is to check with them, correct?
Ask questions.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, to ask questions.
Correct, to check. All right, but I say, well, a better way for me to check my understanding is to do a repeat back, which means I put this in my own words and I share it back. Okay, so let's imagine Sher wrote this, and I say, okay, Sher, listen up now. So let me see if I understand you correctly what you were saying here, Sher. And I say, okay, one of the most significant bottlenecks to learning an inability to face and deal with the awful truth. Okay, what does this mean to me? Say, I get stuck because that I don't want to deal with this because I think it's too ugly and I don't have the skills to deal with that ugliness. Is that what you're saying in that first sentence, sir?
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
Okay. So and this is a big deal. It's huge. It's a
Yeah.
wow, you said it's a very big deal. Yeah. Okay. So this is really profound. This is very significant. All right. I get that. All right. Okay. If we can't be thoroughly self-honest and deal with those truths we believe so to be so ugly, we can't face them. What does this mean to me? If we can't be thoroughly self-honest and deal with those truths we believe to be so ugly, we can't face them. I see what you're meaning, sure. You are saying that if I think that these things are too terrible, that they can't be connected to, they can't be, then I'm not going to deal with them. It's going to prevent me from dealing with them. So I have to shift my belief into saying that even though they are ugly, they aren't too ugly to deal with. Yeah?
Right. exactly.
Right. So then we won't ever get onto the path of learning and change, and we'll be stuck in our nonsense until we do. Holy crap. So unless I'm willing to jump into the muck, I'm screwed.
Right. We have to be able to push through the muck, just like a lotus does.
Right, exactly. And the lotus grows from the muck. Okay. But this is the point, though. I have to say that unless I'm willing to do this, I'm not going anywhere. Yes?
Right.
So now look what's happened, right? Sherman, Jessica, right? Look what I've done. In my repeat back, I'm saying what's on the slide. I've not said whether I agree with this or not. And I don't care for agreement, just me personally, right? I want to understand, right? So now,
Exactly.
right, now I've checked my understanding with Sher. But because I said it in my words, I had to internalize it. I did it out loud, right? So you could hear me going through it. I was like, well, I'm thinking it through as I go through it. Because I've internalized it and I put it into my words, whether I agree or not, I'm demonstrating I understand. Agreement is irrelevant. I'm looking to see if I understand. Only once I understand what Sher's trying to say in the slide here, only when I understand that, then only can I start to think whether it's something that makes sense to me or not. But first, I have to understand what she's thinking. Because if I don't really understand, I just believe I understand. And then how do I really know? So yeah, I'm having this big debate on something that wasn't meant or intended, and I'm just completely wasting my time. So a repeat back is very critical to be sure you understand. Secondly, it's that internalization. I made these points on the slide. I made them my own when I put them in my own language. This is a massively valuable skill for everything, right? You internalizing it, you're making it your own. If you don't make a new truth your own, it's never going to be real to you. It'll always be external, always be somebody else's. This is just the way we are set up. The only way you can really do something is to make it your own. Now, it doesn't mean you have to put it in different words. Sometimes you can make it your own and use the exact same words. The key is making it your own. This is absolutely critical. Then we're going to get to another part later, which is to prove it, which is what you said, sure, application. So now I've made it my own. Now I say, well, all right, my internal self says one of my aspects, my inner bureaucrat say, all right, sure, sure. So you think you know this, you believe you know this. How do we really know that you actually know it? You can believe all you like that you know it, but that doesn't mean you actually do. You may just be believing it. Prove to
Mhm.
us that you actually know it. We want to see proof here. Sorry, bud. You know, I'm not going to sign off on this. I'm not going to put the order through to say, okay, so gets this. Nah, we need proof. That's when you go and apply it. You test it. You make sure. So now I say, well, all right, yeah, you got me there, bureaucrats. You're right. I can understand all about awful truths until I actually face one and deal with it. I'm not going to know I can do this. Right? So I have to prove it. I have to actually face and deal with the awful truth. So understanding is step one, application step two. Very key. But the repeat back makes sure that I know I understand what's meant and intended. Plus, I get the benefits of internalizing. I get the benefits of expressing, practicing my ability to express myself. Very valuable skill, right? And also, I get the benefit of listening to myself. And that's a very useful opportunity because sometimes, like again, shadow thoughts, we think inside our brain. When you actually say it, it's different. How many times haven't you had a good idea and you came to your friend and he said, hey, bud, I've got this wonderful, great idea. And they say, yes, what is it? What is it? And you start sharing it. And then as it comes out, oh, well, all right, never mind. Right? You realize that it was all idea. When you actually said it, it fell apart, right? So this is the shadow thoughts thing. But so expressing this stuff, it gets us to be aware of what we actually know. And when you say it, it's different to what you think it. It's very
And
different.
sometimes, like
Yep.
in my case, I had to face the truth that I was afraid to ask the questions or
There
to
you
say
go.
that I didn't understand
There
something.
you go.
To
What was
come
the
back
ugly
to
truth
you,
involved? What was the awful truth
yes.
involved in that?
What was the ugly truth? Lack of confidence, that I was afraid I was going to look stupid.
There you go. Not even that you're afraid to look stupid, that you were stupid.
That I am stupid. Yes,
Yeah.
because
You
that's
see,
what I was told.
it's still there. Yes, yeah,
I know it is, and I'm still working on changing that language. That was a really good awareness, by the way. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But it's true, you know, it's one of those things that, and that keeps so many of us, especially me,
Exactly.
from talking for myself, from expressing what my actual views and thoughts are.
Yeah.
And that in itself doesn't really help me
Yeah.
stay in my authentic
Yeah.
self.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I've got many different parts of me, but looking stupid is one of the ones that I'm afraid of the most.
Yeah, and you know, just because we don't know things, and this is something that American media, unfortunately, and especially in the movies and TVs, they get completely wrong. They
Mhm.
confuse ignorance with intelligence. And
Yes.
Jeopardy, great champion. Oh, the people on Jeopardy are
Yes.
so intelligent. You remember the movie Rain Man? You guys know the movie Rain Man?
Love it. Love it. Yes.
Sherman,
Yeah,
Jessica,
of course. It's a classic.
Jessica.
I don't watch movies. I do
Okay,
apologize.
all right. Well,
You
anyway,
remember Rain
so
Man?
all right. Well, it doesn't
Oh,
matter.
Rain
Rain
Man.
Man
Yeah,
is
I
a
remember
story.
Rain Man.
Okay, right. So
Okay.
so Rain Man was, you know, he was completely incapable of taking care of himself, right? He was in daily life, he was incapable of this, and he was, you know, essentially completely stupid, right? In terms of practical application. But he had this fountain of information inside. It was like this encyclopedia, right? It was like Google, right? Whenever something came up, he could have. Rain Man would have been a champion at Jeopardy. Does that mean he was intelligent? No. Absolutely not. So information, knowledge does not make us necessarily intelligent. It's just information. It's like you've got a hard drive full of information, but you've got a processor from way back when that's the faulty and defective and not very good. See, it doesn't make you intelligent. Intelligence is the ability to think, to problem solve, to deal
To
with stuff,
understand.
not information, to understand, to be aware.
Yes.
Exactly. Bina?
Yes, I personally feel that this asking, not asking question or feel reluctant to ask question is also shows that lack of trust.
Yes.
But we feel that not only self-trust but also on other people because of some experiences might be, but we do feel that we cannot trust those people and ask them any question for clarity because
Exactly.
we don't know that how they are going to react. You
Yeah.
might be feel completely okay that okay, yes, if even if I'm not understanding something, it's okay, but for the responses, the reactions from other people makes us like reluctant that I cannot trust those people who are and how and what they are going to actually react in. So this is for me, it is very important to understand that it is not only us, we also don't trust other people, and we might have some very valid reasons for that.
Yeah.
So it is not dependent on any excuse or reason, but it is just that it's a lack of trust
There you
also.
go. There you go.
If I have this ability, like I can ask you, or I can ask Sil, or I can ask anyone a question, and you people will try your best to share your understanding, then I will not feel hesitate or reluctant at all. Like you don't feel hesitate or reluctant at all here. You always ask questions, some really awesome questions to bring awareness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very powerful. Very, very important. All right. So on that point right there, I want to we're going to end now because we're out of time, and Bina and I have an appointment at 10. We're going to do a capital R reading of a very magical story. Very cool. All right. And we can do this with others too at other times. It's a very powerful thing to do. What I want to say is we're going to end on this point of the awful truth. And it's a big, big, big deal. It's a very big deal. As you'll come to see, and I don't want to give away, there's this kind of a secret involved, right? And when we get to that point, you're like, oh, the world does not work the way I think it does. Yes. So we'll leave that for next time. I'll leave a little cliffhanger here. There's a big secret involved with this, and it's going to be a surprise, right? And it is a surprise to most people. But once you know it, it changes everything, right, Sure? Don't say what it is.
I will not.
You know, yeah, it changes. It's a big deal, right? And then also, Sherman, for next time, I'm keen to. I'm going to ask you to share a few repeat backs, right? Different to a takeaway. I want to really make sure that you can share the difference between the two and clearly see what they are. It's going to change the way you do the program profoundly. Not only that, it's going to change the way you live profoundly,
Mhm.
especially as a student. The ability to do repeat backs. This is how you learn. The moment you start repeating back, not verbatim, that doesn't help. right? When you do it in your own words, that's when you get to understanding. That's when it stays with you. That's when you know it. That's when you've learned it. It's a massive, massive, massive skill to learn, right? And it's also it's part of our humility. We check because we all know the partner, right? You've seen this on TV. Al, what is his name? Al, not Al Bundy, the guy from Married, and anyway, right?
Yeah.
And his wife, I forget their names now, but she would come and jabber at him, and he'd go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And she said, oh, you're not listening to me. He said, yes, I am. And he'd repeat what she just said, the last couple of sentences, verbatim, right? You've seen this plenty times. The husband or the wife is able to do this, but they're not really listening. They're only able to repeat it back verbatim. Verbatim doesn't mean that they've taken it in, that they've understood it, that they've connected to it. And the wife, of course, knows this, and it never really helps him. She's still irritated because she knows this. It's just like a trick. It's like a memory trick, right? So being able to say things verbatim back, this is not, that's memorizing it. That's not knowing it. That's not understanding. It's not making it your own. So repeat back, it's about understanding. It's putting it in your own words. So I'm really keen to get some demonstrations of this, right? It's massively, massively valuable. I cannot emphasize much because it engages inadvertent learning, and I can go into the psychology of that, and will be 2 hours, and it's a big deal. Jessica, if you want to do the course the way Sher and Sherman are doing it, and Bina, please tell me. I'll send you links to the program. Like, what we're going through here now, it's online. You can go and access it yourself. And then I'll send you links to a pre-program, and you can read up all about what takeaways and repeatbacks are, how to do the program, and all this. And then you can really do it, because it's very valuable to do it from the inside and to do those tasks. Now, I didn't get to hear all of the repeatbacks and takeaways. Doesn't matter. It's not about me necessarily hearing it or you sharing it with everybody here. It's about doing it. That changes your brain. So, I'm going to ask everybody to share, but do all of them and do it thoroughly, because it makes a difference to you. It's the doing of the program that's the value lies, right? Not in absorbing the information. It's
This
the
is
doing
something I
of it.
could do, so.
Okay, I'll send it to you. If you're not friends with me on Facebook, just connect with me on Facebook, send me a message, and then send me your email address so that I can email you, because I have to email you links and stuff. So I'll send it to you in an email. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
And then I'll update you as well, Sherman, for, I'll send you the information to the next session. Even though we didn't get to the end of this one, it doesn't matter. You can continue. And next week you can share stuff from module 2. It doesn't matter. We don't have to always stay on the same place. We're going to take a long time going through this, but you can go through it at your own pace. Like, sure, I didn't get to even share this because I got to go. But Sure wanted to share stuff about module 4, right? Sure, you had a big question there. But all
Oh,
right,
that's
next
true,
week.
but we'll get to it. It's,
One other quick point before I go, because I gotta go. Bina, will you please just let Janet know we're coming? That yes,
Yes.
in this first session, it happens. There's a ton of stuff that I've been sharing, and that it's come up, and through your takeaways, through your comments, through your questions, we went into sort of side areas. That's going to happen because everything is connected. So initially you say, oh my goodness, in this program, it's like, man, can I deal with all this stuff? There's so much coming in. It's like overwhelming. It
you
gets
can.
less as we go along. It's always going to be more in the beginning, always, because we're touching and connecting to everything, right? So don't worry about it. It's going to come clear. It will be simpler as we go along, right? Because we're establishing the baseline, we're establishing the parameters, we're establishing the language. There's a whole language involved here, right? Like, look how impeccability came into it. It's just, it cannot be avoided. So, all right. So just be aware, it's not always going to be this much, right? It'll get simpler as we go along. But this was magical, and thank you so much for being here, Sherman. I absolutely appreciate it profoundly, and Jessica, I'm pleased that you took this step. It takes a bit of courage sometimes to do this, right? So I do want to appreciate that also. Big deal, big deal.
Thank you, Phil. We appreciate you today.
Absolute pleasure, absolute
All right.
pleasure. Anything to say before we go, Bina?
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here, and it was wonderful for repeatbacks and takeaways. Yes, I tried that, but it was not coming, like, because they were very basic. Okay, for me, I can say that because I was doing a lot. So from now on, I will do my repeatbacks and takeaways very properly. One thing I want to add, that this understanding that we want to do good, and we want to help other people. That was my awful truth. I was going through this thing that my acquaintances and my friends were asking me a lot of things, and I was really happy to help them. And of course, I was doing that with absolute good intent. And I was like, I was feeling good about myself. But then when I shared with Sil, and he asked me some questions, and that was like really an eye opener, and then it hits me really big time. That was my awful truth, that it is kind of like an ego thing that was assuming that I can do something about it and I can change something and I know better. That was my awful truth, and it slaps me really hard. So yes, even with the good intent, with complete impeccability, we do things which is okay in the longer run, not so really well. That's why we need impeccability more in our life.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, CJ. Thank you, Omar. And thank you, Sherman. Thank you,
Yes.
Jessica. And thank you, Cheryl.
Yes.
And thank you so
to
much, Sil.
yeah, and to anybody watching this, comment. Even if you're watching the video, we will respond and ask. We will respond. Yeah,
Yes,
problem. Always, always.
absolutely.
All right. Bye bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
See you next week.
Yes. Okay. So leave meeting.